So we have a full evening ahead of us. I don't know if that means we'll go until 9 or 9:30, like our schedule might suggest. In fact, my guess is that we won't. But you're going to feel pretty full by the time we do stop tonight, regardless of what time that happens to be. So what I want to do this evening is we'll do some of the basic introduction things that we have to do for any new course, but then we're just going to dive right in to the subject matter. We have a very limited time frame, only 7 weeks to go through this, and I'm going to do my very best to see to it that you get out of this everything you possibly can. And I think you'll see that as I go through a number of the mechanisms here this evening. So let me start by introducing the course, and then I'm going to introduce myself, and then we're going to take a real quick run through you. I know some of you know each other. We're not going to spend a lot of time there. I know about half of you, but that means I don't know about half of you. So this, of course, is MBA 640. It's a course on executive financial decision making. And you're going to swear by the time we're done with this that this was a course on valuation modeling. But in fact, it's not. It's just that we use the lens of valuation modeling to help us reveal the virtue of decisions that might be made inside of a firm. We're going to start with the premise that all firm level decisions, certainly executive level decisions, either create or destroy value for firm stakeholders. And so we're going to look at ways of measuring that. We'll look at the kinds of decisions, and we'll look at forecasting the effects of decisions, but then we'll look at the ways of measuring the value changes that might occur in order for us to determine, is this a good decision to make, or should we stay away from this, or is it impotent? Does it really not matter to us? So again, you're going to think at different times based upon some of the terminology I use, some of the models that we use, some of the material I bring in, that we're talking about valuation modeling, but we're only doing so as a means to an end. And in this case, the end is to better prepare you to make quantitative decisions within those businesses, either businesses that you might own or businesses that you are helping run because they're owned by others, or maybe a combination of both. Maybe you own part and others own part. So my name is Rick Haskell, of course. You probably already realized that. I've been teaching this class for about 5 years now. And I got to tell you, I dig this class. I'm a little bit of a numbers geek. I haven't always been that way. In fact, until I was about 50 years old, which sadly is farther in my rearview mirror than I care to admit. But when I was about 50, I finally decided I should buckle down and learn higher order math. And so I did, and I went from pre-algebra at that point to Calc 3 in about 18 months with a very stalwart and slave-driving tutor. I was in the process at the time of selling a firm that I'd owned for about 30 years. And that firm was an investment firm, and in the last 10 years of that firm's lifespan, we had created a private equity firm. And when I had an opportunity to sell that combined group of firms, it was a happy day at the Haskell household, but it put together a path that I've been hoping to be able to see a clear way towards for quite some time. And that then led me to my doctoral work at the University of Utah in economics, which led me here then about 5 years ago. I love this stuff, partially because I dig the mechanics of it, but partially because I understand that when you know these kinds of metrics, when you can make critical, rational, objective decisions, when you can be the person in the room that may be the only one that knows that they know, it increases your value, not only to the firm, but to your household, to yourself, and to your progeny. And that's what I dig about this stuff. So as I get excited sometimes, it's not just because I'm a geek, but kind of I am a little bit. It's because I know the outcome of understanding these kinds of metrics. Now, to back that up, you're going to find that in this class, not only will we hold these sessions each week, but as you probably have already noticed, I'm going to hold an optional Zoom session on Monday evenings. I originally announced that those would be held at 8:30. I now realize that's going to run afoul of another class that some of you might have, so we won't start those until 9 o'clock. And if I need to update the Zoom invitation on those, I will. Those will be optional sessions. You do not need to attend them. I am not going to go into those sessions with a plan or curriculum. They are there because the next night you have some homework assignments every week that are due. And I want to be able to help you with questions you might have that you haven't been able to get satisfactorily answered to that point. So I'm going to not only spend this 2 or 3 hours with you on Tuesdays, I'll spend another hour or two with you on Monday nights late for those who would like to. And then you're going to find that we will spend a ton of time on WhatsApp that I'll introduce here in a little bit if you haven't already signed into it, and in emails and such, just to make sure that you get what you need to get out of this class. That will extend to me being willing to put together individual or small group Zoom sessions at different times in the week, since we don't have the luxury of office hours, if you will. So you can have a lot of access to me, but you're also going to have a lot of access to each other. Normally, this class is able to organize into some study groups, some voluntary study groups, which virtually everyone in the past has taken advantage of those. But we don't really have that luxury yet in this digital environment. We haven't quite gotten comfortable enough with the technology. So I'm kind of supplanting those by being willing to organize small group Zoom sessions. And I'll suggest that if you would like to organize into study groups, and it's a great idea, I'll suggest that you also organize some small group Zoom sessions. And if you would like to invite me to them, I'm more than happy to try to pop in to the extent that my schedule will allow me to do so. So I hope that you get a sense that my passion for some of the material we're going to be discussing is backed up by my action and by my commitment to helping you understand it. And hopefully we'll enjoy this together. Those of you that know me reasonably well know a couple of things about me, including my concept is if we can't have some fun while we're doing this, then we're doing something wrong. And I tend to be a 5-star smartass sometimes. So I tell you about that right up front. I know I can tell by the look on a few of your faces that, yes, you know that about me, and a few other people are saying, oh, thank goodness. But I'll tell you, I like to have fun, and I like to get to know you. And if I ever in any way offend you, please know that it is absolutely not intended. I would never do so. I would never try to embarrass, offend, etc. It's not in my nature, and it's certainly not in my plan. So that gives you a tiny bit about me. I've been married for 40-something years to a wife whom I absolutely adore, and I have 4 children who probably are about your age. My baby is 27 years old, and so you know, this has become more of a lifestyle for me than hopefully your class will end up continuing to be for you. And I dig this stuff. So with that, go ahead, and I'm going to run through the top row here of Kate, Matt, and then Diana, and then we'll go down and I'll announce each row at a time to give you a moment to come off of mute. Go ahead and just do a brief introduction to yourself for me, if you will, especially if I don't know you well or if the others in the class don't know you. Give us something we can connect to you for a moment. We'll lead off with you, Kate. I think it's McConey, is that right?
Yep, you got it right. Kate McConey. I know probably about half the people in the class, so that's a good basis, but never had a class with you before. I am about halfway through the MBA program. I work at Solitude Mountain Resort, so if anyone skis or snowboards and in a year when we open back up are up there, feel free to say hi. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Kate. Matt?
Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Matt Schmidt. I am actually in the last semester of the MBA program. Thank God. No offense, Rick.
Come on, Matthew.
But hey, you know, I saved the best for last, right?
There you go.
So yeah, I'm taking this in my capstone right now, and I work, I'm a business risk officer for Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank is a commercial bank that kind of specializes in startups, a lot of venture capital backed companies, and we try to partner with them from, you know, from their very first idea out of a garage all the way through IPO. And I manage operational risks, so not as much on the financial side as on the risk and compliance side. That's it.
And Matt, are you here also connected to Carta, or is this unit of Silicon Valley Bank completely separated from Carta?
Not that I'm aware of. Not familiar with that that name. But there's because I'm on the back end, there's a lot of front end relationships and partnerships, and I know they've got a lot of different investor relationships that I just never, I'm not on that side of the house.
Yeah, Carta is a very large valuation firm, online transfer agent, and online cap table firm that acquired the valuation unit from Silicon Valley Bank here 4 or 5 years ago. They have a very large presence locally, and I know that they still have some connectivity with the bank. So I just kind of wondered.
Yeah, good question.
Diana, and then we're going to move to Carol, Mandy, Michael, and Lisa, and you guys can come off of mute a moment in advance.
Okay, my name is Diana. It's my third semester, and I had 2 jobs. My first job is I'm a nurse at Intermountain Medical Center, and my second job, I was a swim instructor in HVAC, but now because college is closed, including HVAC, I don't teach swim lessons anymore, but I was a swim instructor as well.
Very good, thank you. Carol.
Here we go. I'm Carol. This is my second to last semester of the program. So I've had classes with most of you guys here. Not you, Rick, so first timer. I'm the benefits manager at Progression and Lexington Law, which is headquartered in downtown Salt Lake. I've been there for a little over 2 years. That's it.
Very good. Mandy.
My name's Mandy. I'm in my 3rd semester here, right with Diana and a couple other people. I work as a finance director for the Utah Department of Agriculture. So if any of you guys know any producers or ranchers or anybody out there, let us know our feedback. But other than that, that's all I got.
And Mandy, how soon are you done with the program? How far are you into this?
Next summer, I'll be done.
It's about what I figured. Good for you. Michael? Michael Allen.
Hi, my name is Michael. I work in human resources at Ogden Clinic. Right now I've been furloughed, but hopefully I get to go back in the next month or so. And I have a dog. Her name's Zoe. You might see her occasionally because this is her spot on the couch. She just lets me share. So if you see her, she's just hanging out. She's super interested in finance.
Very good. Well, we'll see if we can give her a grade. Lisa.
My computer froze.
Yeah, we're good. We can hear you. Well, we can't hear you now. So I'm going to move over to Kylie and then Xinjiang and then Decker, who's, I'm guessing there's a first name on there, and then Mario. Lisa, I think you're frozen. You may have to leave the group and come back in. I've seen this problem before. So Kylie, let's go ahead and lead off with you, and then Xinjiang and Decker and Mario.
I'm Kylie. This is my last semester in the program as well, just doing this class and the capstone. I am a medical biller for a home health and hospice company located in Draper, although I'm currently up in Montana doing quarantine with my parents. So.
Okay. Well, I guess you're going to have to quarantine. Montana's a good place to do it.
Yes,
good
yeah.
Okay, Xinjiang.
My name is Xun Chen, and I'm a finance major, and actually I'm undergraduate, and it's third year, junior year here. So I think that's it.
So you guys should know that Xinjiang is actually not an MBA student. He's one of our finance undergrads that I have asked to participate in this class so that he could finish it up. There was a timing issue that we needed to accommodate because of all the problems we've been dealing with. And Xinjiang actually is probably better prepared than most of the rest of us in the class because some of the material he studied coming into this. But nonetheless, I just want to make sure that you knew that. He'll give us some additional strength as we go through some of this. Okay, so we'll work off through here with Decker. That can't be your first name, buddy. What's your first name?
No, I think it seems to pick up my email address probably from when I signed up on this thing. Yeah, my name is Jason
Thank
Decker.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, it's my first
And
time
then
taking a
Mario
class
and
with you.
David.
I'm a project manager. I work with the finance group at Adobe Systems. I'm about halfway through the program here. Seen maybe about a third of these folks in other classes. So yeah, moving on.
Very good. Mario.
Yeah, my name is Mario. I have been in the program now. This is my last semester as well with Matt and Kylie. So
Good for you.
really excited to do that. I think I know most of the people in this class with an exception of a few, but I'm the marketing manager at Aqua Recovery. It's a treatment center out in Midway.
Very good. Thank you. David.
Yeah, so I'm David Bradshaw. I'm a little over halfway through the program. I work for American Express in their Global Risk and Banking Compliance Department as a risk manager. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll finish off with Taylor, Andrew, someone whose name appears to be Univis, but I'm guessing that's not correct, and then Lisa.
I am Taylor Rogers. This is my last semester as well, along with many of the rest of you. I am a statistician data analyst. I'm currently between contracts, so we're hoping to use what I'm learning here to find something good.
Okay, Andrew.
I'm Andrew. I hope to be done with school by the end of this year in fall. I know most of you. I know you as well, Rick. And I'm a project manager at Family Search, and I've been there for 3 years now.
Very good, thank you. And I apologize, I don't see your name. I see UTBS.
That's me.
Thank
My
you.
name is Gabriela Sakira, but I go by Bella. I think I had attached to Behavior Services, which is UTBS. I'm in the same class as Mandy as well, so I graduate next August if all goes well. But yeah, my title is executive assistant, but I do payroll, human resources, project management. I kind of just am a team player, so wherever I'm needed is where I go. So that's
Very good, thank you. And then finally, Lisa.
Hi, I am Lisa. I should graduate the end of next summer. I was the flight operations manager at Westminster College for the last 5 years, and since they're closing that department down, lost my job there, so just decided to go back to school and finish out my MBA, and like Westminster a lot.
Very good, thank you. So this is interesting. Almost all of you represent the type of decision maker in a firm that has the ability to affect firm value. Because for most of you, your decisions don't only affect what you do, but they affect what how customers respond, how other workers engage, how suppliers, vendors, etc., provide inputs to the firm. And you're going to find that you are largely within that realm of decision-making capacity that we're going to be examining in this. And you might think, well, wait a minute, I'm a programmer with Family Search. What are you talking about? Well, at the end of the day, every decision in the firm either creates or destroys value for firm stakeholders. So let's take a moment and we're going to define what I mean by stakeholders. We're going to then consider why we value the value proposition, and then we're going to move into looking at Canvas and syllabus, etc., and then we'll come back and continue to talk, kind of picking up from that why we value the value proposition here. So stakeholders. When I say stakeholder, who am I talking about? You can come off of mute for a moment and you can share with us. Or if you would prefer to type into the chat function, you're welcome to do that. And I've made it live on my screen. You can do so on yours as well by hovering over the chat icon, little text icon, and it'll make it live on the right-hand side of your screen. Who am I talking about when I'm talking about stakeholders?
You could be talking about customers or employees.
Well, you know, David, interesting that you say that. If we were having this conversation in Europe, then clearly the fiduciary responsibility and fiduciary guidelines would include that customers, employees, vendors, others, vendors, suppliers, worker households, the society at large customer, all would be stakeholders. But interestingly enough, not within the very Western, or I'll say the American sense of fiduciary capitalism. So who's left?
Maybe investors.
Yeah, Diana.
Shareholders.
Yeah, so in fact, in the Western sense, or the American sense, specifically and exclusively, equity stakeholders. So holders of common stock or holders of preferred stock, not holders of long-term debt, not bonds, because those stakeholders, if you will, receive their stake and their payments by contract rather than by opportunity. So within the U.S. or the American sense of capitalism, we think of the stakeholder to which a fiduciary responsibility is to be granted and to be protected as the equity shareholders, the common shareholders and the preferred shareholders. And it's very finite here. Now, it appears to be beginning to open up. There are some court cases, there's some social movements that's starting to open up, such that we even had a corporate roundtable here on which people like Warren Buffett and others sit, that have begun to talk about stakeholders in a broader sense. And when that starts to bubble up from the ground up, it ends up permeating through our legal system as well. But at this point, it still is such that there's a fiduciary responsibility that we as decision makers in the firm or the firm's board of directors have to the equity stakeholders. All others are covered by contract, but the equity stakeholders are covered by opportunity that only comes when we provide good decisions and create value by expanding the firm's value for the benefit of those stakeholders. So why do we value then the value proposition or the value construct or metrics? Because it's a framework that allows us to determine what projected benefit those stakeholders may be able to gain and compare it to a known cost. And if the benefit that we expect a stakeholder or a group of stakeholders to get is greater than the cost, then we say that that has virtue, that that's worth doing. It is part of our decision criteria. And we're going to come back and talk about decision criteria at length, and we'll dissect it into numerous parts. If we believe that the cost is going to be greater than the benefit, then the prudent individual would say, no, we should avoid that decision. The trick in the middle of all this is the decision made today may have some known costs, and it may have some unknown costs. It may have some expected but not known revenues and expected but not known expenses. So we're clearly into forecasting. And there's an acronym amongst the other 1,000 or so we're likely going to include in this course. There's an acronym I'm going to ask you to get used to. And that acronym is WAG, W-A-G. Do any of you know what the WAG acronym stands for in finance? Well, Mandy, you might remember this because we talked about WAG one time when you took finance or MBA 603, I think, or maybe it was another class. WAG stands for wild ass guess, okay? Because when we're forecasting, when we're estimating into the future, the fact of the matter is that's what we're doing. And forgive me if I sound a little brusque to you, but the fact is we are guessing. The trick is to make as well-informed and as plausible a series of guesses as possible, to become good enough at this over a period of time such that your guesses pass both a sensitivity and severity analysis, which we're not going to go into those analytical structures, but some of you might know what they are. So the valuation construct lets us apply our science of finance and our art of finance. I would like to tell you that the rules of finance are all set in stone. The problem is I also then have to tell you, except for when they're not. And so we're going to look at literally hundreds of metrics, and many of them you're going to be memorizing. Some of them you'll just use different sheets for, but we're going to realize that the inputs to these metrics all look very standard and all look very cut and dried. They come off of an income statement or a balance sheet, and that's largely true. But we also sometimes have to intuit or interpret them. Now, the good news is that your ability to intuit or interpret the inputs and interpret the outcomes is what will separate you from the monkey and the iPad that frankly could do most of modern finance. I mean, as I deal with my undergraduate students, I try to help them understand, those that are majors in finance, that I'm training them to do something that a monkey and an iPad can do if you give them enough bananas and enough wattage. So what's going to differentiate them from the pay cycle that a monkey needing bananas and iPads would pay? They all want to have, as you probably do as well, six-figure or multiple six-figure incomes. And some of you are already in some of that income echelon, but none of them are. Well, what's going to differentiate you? Your ability to interpret and your ability to intuit. In the first few weeks of class, there will be very little interpreting. Very little. But then hopefully a little bit at a time, you're going to be willing to make assumptions. And then you're going to be willing to stand behind your assumptions. You're going to be able to identify what assumptions are plausible, which are not. And then we will finish up this block together with an assignment set that is largely one of assumptions. But we're going to start with one that is virtually exclusively prescribed, and then we'll progress towards the assumed end. So with that, I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up Canvas, and I'm going to pick up the syllabus so we can walk through that for a moment. I believe that you all have these. I went ahead and made sure that they were attached to WhatsApp here some hours ago or within the last couple of hours. But let's just go through some of this so we can make sure that we're all on the same page together. Are you being able to see the syllabus on my screen now? Kind of nod your head if you are. Yep. Thank you. Okay. Let me just change one item here so I can see more of you while we go through this. Also, one of the reasons I appreciate that you're willing to have your cameras on, and again, thank you for that, is because I get a much better sense of whether or not you're being able to follow me as I can see the look on your face. So like, for example, Kylie is just kind of scowling still. And there we go, Kylie. Okay, you are in the right place. I'm not going to make your eyes bleed tonight. I'll wait for a few weeks before we do that. Okay, Kylie? Okay. So, you know, you've already been through this, but we need to go through it again. Obviously, you see the course that you're in. We're meeting. Our Zoom meeting ID is constant. It'll be the same meeting ID for every one of our class sessions and for those optional review sessions. I'm not holding specific office hours where you're constrained to reach out to me during time A to B. You're going to find, and those of you that already know me, know that I spend a lot of time working. I enjoy what I do, and if you need to spend time with me, you need to access me. All you need to do is let me know, and we'll schedule a time. So I'm not going to constrain it to a couple of office hours for a couple of days each week. If you need time and resource, then I am your first line of defense. I know sometimes in this class, a few students are sometimes tempted to seek out tutors or to try to find somebody to spend more time with them. And whenever you do that within Will Shiflett's office or Deb Marzano or maybe even Emily Mosdell's office, the request always comes back through me. Who should we look for as a tutor? And my response is, I'm always the best tutor for you unless you want something or someone else. So feel free to take advantage of me and to take advantage of my time. There is no textbook for the class. There is a text that I really like. It's a McKinsey & Company book called Valuation. You're going to find that it's in the 6th or 7th edition. I still use the 5th edition when I'm taking materials, and you're going to find the 5th edition is very easily available online for either free or virtually free if you want to pick it up. You don't have to. All of the material from the McKinsey text that we would use in this class is included in some of the resources I'll show you in a few minutes for the class and in the PowerPoints, etc. that we'll use. But if you dig the material, you want to get a copy of the text, I wouldn't discourage you. My McKinsey text, I've got a couple of them, and they are page worn, and the ears have been turned back many, many times. You're also going to want to use a financial calculator in this class. And you'll see that I sent you by WhatsApp a few hours ago a link to an HP calculator emulator. And that link will let you download onto a desktop of any kind the HP 10B calculator. We will at times go through some of the functions of that calculator. You're welcome to use any other calculator, but I can support the functions of that one. I don't necessarily know the functions of all of the others that are out there. I'll show you some videos and such that you might want to utilize, but we'll do a little bit with the calculator, we'll do a little bit with math, we'll do a lot with Excel together. So rather than give you one of the physical calculators necessarily, I've opened up that calculator emulator that you're able to download as an app onto your computer. If you would also then like one of the HP calculators, and if you're willing to actually use it, I'm willing to get one for you. Because there is no text for the class, that means we're not paying for a text, which means I've expended some of the budget to buy those calculators instead. So if you want a physical calculator, all you have to do is let me know, send me an email, and I'll make sure you've got one. Otherwise, you'll have a digital one, and some of you may be willing to hardly use those because we're going to use Excel so intensively in this class. We're also going to use something called WhatsApp. And I think most of you are already keyed into WhatsApp. So if not, I would ask you to not only look here on the syllabus where I give you a link to WhatsApp for the class, but also I've put this is the subject of some announcements. It's in Canvas, etc. And we will use WhatsApp as our primary communication mechanism. Now, it doesn't mean you can't use text with me, because you can. And it doesn't mean you can't use emails, because you absolutely can. WhatsApp is a really nice coordinated communication tool that, like texting, follows you wherever you are because you can put it on your phone, but it's easy to attach documents, to look at schedules, to make phone calls, to all kinds of things through WhatsApp, and it's free. So I really like WhatsApp. Here's one of the utilities of WhatsApp that we will take advantage of. So Matt comes in and he's working on an assignment and he realizes he doesn't know the answer to X. And he wants to understand the answer to X, and he wants to know how that answer was gotten. So he goes to WhatsApp and he asks, guys, how do I answer X? And he knows that at some point I'm going to see this question and I'll come in and answer it. But it's altogether plausible that, that Jason saw the question first, and Jason knew the answer, and Jason provided the answer in WhatsApp. Or maybe Mario comes in looking for an answer to something or looking for some input, and starts to ask a question only to realize that 20 minutes earlier, David asked the exact same question and Lisa answered it. So that's something that we're able to use WhatsApp for, and I'm going to ask you to use it liberally. So if you have a question about anything technical in the class, any equation, any relationship, any metric, etc., always ask it in the class group chat. That way, if I do answer it, and I probably will, but if I do answer it, everybody gets to see the answer. And if I don't see it first, if Xinjiang sees it first, he may answer it, and then everybody also gets to see the answer, and you didn't have to wait for me. So use WhatsApp. You'll remember, or you may have noticed, that there is a small participation score in this class, which is a little bit odd for a virtual class, an online class, if you will, because of our situation. But I'm maintaining that. And so not only is your participation in these sessions, but your willingness to participate through WhatsApp it goes into that score. Any questions about what I've discussed so far, guys?
I had a quick question, Rick.
Please.
So I've tried to use the link for the WhatsApp chat, and when I try to use it, it says that it's no longer an active link to join the group. I don't know if that's just an issue that I'm having, or...
Well, let's take a look. I'm going to click on it and see what happens. Looks like it takes me. So you might have something in one of your settings. I've had students that with Apple computers. I don't know if that's what you have or not, David, but I've had some students that need to clear their caches. So it's working. And I know we've got lots of other people coming into this even as recently as today. If you can't get it to work for yourself, go ahead and send me your WhatsApp handle, and I might be able to add you that way on my side.
So I couldn't get it to work in the email that you originally sent out, and I think I asked you about it, and you just resent it. And I don't know if there's something about the link, but you said I'm just going to resend it to make sure you have the complete link, and I tried it and got in. So
okay,
I don't know if that's the same issue or not.
So David, let's do this. Shoot me a quick email, and I will send you a fresh link, and maybe that'll help us.
Okay.
Very good. Well, let's move on then. So a lot of this I'm not going to review. You can read this. It's a little bit of its boilerplate. The rest of it I'm kind of talking through with you. But let's look at the evaluation and assessment for the course. So 10% of your grade is going to come from participation. That includes your willingness to talk in class. So a few of you I know pretty well that don't like to talk. Well, bummer for you. I need you to open up because other people need to benefit from some of your thoughts. We're going to go through a series of Excel assignments, and I'll introduce them to you here in a few minutes. They're worth 20% of your grade. There's a series of homework quizzes that are worth 25% of your grade. Now you're going to find there's actually two quiz sets. There's a practice homework, and you can take the practice homework for each one of our modules over and over and over again. I say module, I mean week. So each week there's a practice homework, and you can take those over and over again. It doesn't matter what your score is, because those scores don't add to your course grade. However, the homework quiz scores do. And so your strategy will be that you'll want to have taken the practice quizzes a few times to make sure that you understand the material well enough so that when you open up the real homework quiz and that score is persistent, that you have the opportunity to do well at that. Now, every semester or every block, I have the exact same experience. About half the students are very good about taking the practice quizzes and get very good homework quiz scores. About half the students say, I'm going to bypass that, either because they decided to attack it so late in the game, right before it was due, that they don't take advantage of that preparation, and then their homework quiz scores, which are persistent, are not what they wanted them to be. Well, this is your warning. Start these early. Do not wait until an hour or so before things are due at the end of the week to get all this done. There's also a series of problem sets, and I'll show you one of those in a little bit here. But the problem sets are sometimes throughout our material referred to as ICPs, or in-class problems. It's a bit of a misnomer. When I first developed them, I developed them for some undergraduate programming, and we started these problem sets in class, and then they finished them outside of class. I will typically introduce them in class with you on these sessions, but we won't work on them in class at all. In these problem sets, they are scored, but when you look at the assignments, you're going to realize that the problem set as an MS Word document with some information and questions sits there right along with the solution set, which I believe the solution set is a PDF. And it's exactly the same as the problem set, but it has the answers. And the answers are there for you the entire time that you're active with the assignment. There is no reason to not do well on these because, well, you got the right answers, okay? So the danger here is that you wait a little bit too long. These assignments are due in 3 or 4 hours. You've got way too much to do, and you're just going to go ahead and copy the answers from the solution set into your problem set, and you're going to submit that on Canvas. And you know what? If you do that, I can't tell until we get to the point of other assessments, and then I immediately know who was doing that and who was working through them on their own, okay? Don't do that to yourselves. They are there to help you make course corrections. If I were you, as I'm working through a problem set, I would answer 1 or 2 of the questions, and then I'd look at the solution set to make sure I'm on the right track. And if I'm not, then I make a course correction, get on the right track, and move forward. Another question or 2, and then look back. Use them as a resource, not as a crutch. Because if you use them as a crutch, at some point, Matt's going to come out and kick that crutch out from underneath you, and it's going to be an unhappy day for you. And then finally, there's a project. And I call it a valuation project. It's not really a valuation project, but we're going to use valuation metrics. And you're going to talk about how you would use some of the different components we've dealt with in the class to identify what I refer to as the virtue of some business level decision in your firm. And when I say your firm, that might be literally your company, a company that you own, or it might be a completely hypothetical company that you have conjured in your little mind, or it might be the company for which you work, or some combination of these things. So we'll look at that assignment here in a few minutes. But that's going to be due at the very end of the block, and it's worth 25% of your score. So I've talked about the homework assignments. I've talked a little bit through the problem sets now as well. One of the things about the Excel assignments is that I give you what the Excel file should look like. I give you a screen capture of my version of it. You'll see in the assignments, I'm asking you to replicate that version with exactness. I even sometimes give you source files with all of the raw numbers, and then you've got to put together all the formulaic relationships, which we will have walked through and talked through. And these are not really highbrow Excel functions. This is not Excel level 3 or level 4. This is relatively rudimentary. But I want to make sure that you understand the connection between these numeric relationships. We start with an income statement and a balance sheet and a little bit of market information. And we're going to work through from that very simple construction to where you calculate all kinds of finance metrics and comparative statistics, to a point where you do a very simple valuation structure, to where you do some very relatively complex series of forecasts, and then from those forecasts do some other valuation structure where we can apply those decision criteria, where we can then determine, is this a good decision to make? Or if we want to make the decision, how do we morph it so that it becomes good? And good is very simple. It adds to shareholder or stakeholder value, or it does not. It's as clear cut as that. So when we do these, you're going to be responsible to turn in a unique Excel file, and you're going to turn in one file with multiple worksheets that we're building in an elongated model together. So a unique Excel file that I can clearly see when I look at the file information that you were the author of the file, and you are the one that is modifying the file, not somebody else that you then simply decided to submit, because that is as sure a ticket to death as doing the problem sets by just copying my answers. So I'll show you a little bit of an example of that in a few minutes. Here's a little bit of information about the course project that I just talked through, and then here's the entire listing of your rights under federal law with respect to education in the institution. If you're not familiar with these, you certainly should become such. And then I give you a schedule for the course. And we will follow this schedule really, I think, just dead on. I don't think there will be anything that will cause us to deviate from this. And so tonight, you know, we're introing and we're looking at the various components of the course, and you're going to see that there are 2 assignments, they're in purple here, that will result from tonight, and they are due a week from tonight. They're going to be due at 11:59 p.m. next Tuesday night. So we'll have had some time in class together before then, and that you might use as a little bit of review or opportunity to ask some questions, and then by midnight you're responsible to have turned in these assignments that you may have been working on even all week. Any question about the syllabus at this point?
Yeah, Rick, one question I had was about the quiz, the practice quiz versus the regular quiz. When I look in the module in Canvas, I see, say for week 1, the very last line item there, it says video and quiz, and then it has just a take the quiz button when you click in the module. So is that the real quiz? Is that the practice quiz? And
that's a great question.
Yeah.
So let's move to Canvas, because this is a perfect time to do it, Matt. Thank you. So I brought Canvas up, of course, and you can see here I've got Canvas from the home page. I've got Canvas organized by weeks, okay? And in these weeks, you'll see that I start out in this one, I've got the syllabus and something about WhatsApp, and then a little bit of information about the project. And then I go and I give you the PowerPoint that is what you see me following through, okay? And then you'll see there's a series of items that may be resources. Some introduction materials, some concepts, some quick sheets, some statement ratios, etc. And we get down here to the bottom of the week, and that's where the assignments are. So the week starts at the very top of the list with higher order items like the PowerPoint that's going to govern everything we do, and then has some resources for you. And the very last items are going to be assignment items, okay? So that said, here they are for the first week. The first one is this problem set, ICP, Math of Value Creation. I'm going to click on this so we can see where it takes us. And it takes us to a page that, not surprisingly, has a little bit of information, and then it has the link to the solution set and a link to the problem set. and it shows you the due date. Oh, excuse me, I said that the due date was 11:59 p.m. I show you on some of these the due date is 6 p.m., but I don't count anything turned in by 11:59 as late. So it may have a due date, but you still are active in Canvas. So if I receive it by the end of that night, I still consider it as having been turned in on time, even though it may say 6 p.m. Okay? So this is the problem set, but Matt's talking about this quiz, the Demoter and video and quiz. So let me click on that for a moment. This is a unique quiz amongst all those in this. And the quiz literally asks you to look at a video, which, by the way, is about a 45 to 60-minute video. I can't remember exactly the length. And it's a gentleman by the name of Aswath Damodaran, who is a finance professor at New York University Stern School of Business. He is the modern guru of asset valuation modeling and forecast modeling. So this actually has just a couple of simple questions to it, very easy to answer, but it'll take a little bit of time. You have to think about them. And Matt, this is not one of those practice quizzes or homework quizzes. This is a unique one, and it's the only one that's going to be like this. So that also means in this first week, we don't have one of those. As we come down here into week 2, you're going to then see the PowerPoint. You'll see some resource items, maybe some videos, maybe some other resource items, and then you're going to see the second half of that first problem set, and you see the first of the Excel assignments. So once again, in week 2, there is no practice quiz or homework quiz that you're accountable for. Look, the math of value creation looks exactly like the other one. In fact, it's the exact same problem set. I just split it into 2 because I can't deliver all of the material to you tonight. Your ears would explode, your eyes would bleed, and then the risk management and lawyers would be all over me, okay? So we're going to cut it in 2, and I promise you will thank me for that by the time we're done. But it looks exactly like the one just a second ago. This looks different, though. This is one of the Excel assignments. So you'll see here that, just as I said, there's some material that is actually common to all of them. There's 4 Excel assignments in the series. There's 5, excuse me, Excel assignments in the series. First couple of paragraphs are common to all of them. And here in red, it tells you this must be a unique document. I need to see that you did this work. Now, I don't care if you collaborate with each other. In fact, I think you're double dumb not to, okay? One of the realities of this class is there's lots of little details. And Kate and Carol might both be working on something independently of each other, and Kate may not remember that this tiny little detail, somewhat arcane, greatly affects free cash flow. But Carol may simply have remembered that. And if you're working together, you'll save a ton of time because you don't waste the time of not remembering all the little jots and tittles, okay? So that said, not only on the homeworks, but the problem sets and these Excel assignments, you are absolutely welcome to work together and collaborate. But when it comes to it, you need to submit your own work to the assignments, okay? Now in this case, this first assignment is you are going to replicate this series of very abbreviated income statement, very abbreviated balance sheet, very abbreviated income statement, and then some limited financial information that help us think about markets. You'll replicate that and all of these relationships down here below it. And some of these relationships you know from MBA 603, and some of them you forgot from MBA 603, and I'm going to give you a little cheat sheet that reminds you of them. And we'll walk through some of these things tonight as well. If you don't remember these things immediately, they'll come back to you very quickly. And again, you'll be helping each other as well. But I'll walk you through this. Now, you'll notice here I've given you a link to an Excel file. And I'll open up that file. And you'll see that it is exactly what I'm asking you to provide, except for all of the shaded areas represent items that you need to calculate. I'm giving you the solutions. you need to calculate them. Well, in this case, long-term debt is simply the sum of the two items above it. And such, and I can see a couple of items over here that didn't get shaded. I may need to update this. And so I'll do that hopefully later tonight. All of the items that are in shaded, I will expect to see an equation or a formula or a function when I open up Excel, because that's what you're doing here. So I'm actually giving you all of the structure. You don't need to be typing all these numbers in. This is not a typing class. This isn't about how quickly can or how easily can you copy my text and numbers. This is about, can you articulate and can you understand how these numbers work together to get outcomes such as something called no plat, which happens to be 37.787, but I care less about that than I care that you know how you got it. Well, you can use this, copy this into your own document, but then you've got to work all your own formulaic and equational magic. And then you're going to save your document and you're going to submit your document to the assignment. Any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward. Some of it sometimes will be a little frustrating for you. You should know that you should be able to get exactly the same numbers I get. And you should copy my format structure exactly. And when you do, as we go through these assignments, you'll see that the next assignment adds a second worksheet to this spreadsheet. The one beyond that adds a third. The one beyond that adds a fourth. And you're going to realize that we're building a model that starts with this information given to us by some relatively simple accounting documents and ends up in a very valuable valuation construct to which we get to apply decision criteria to determine whether this is a good decision to make or whether we should stay away from it. Okay, so let's continue on then with Canvas. So you see how I've got this set up. Let me go to the assignment tab just a moment. By the way, if I continue on here through the weeks, they're identical. One thing maybe I will point out at the moment is when we start time value of money in week 3, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time reviewing the equations for time value of money. You've had those already. Some of you had them just this last block perhaps, and they're very fresh for you, and some of them you may have had 2.5 years ago, and they're anything but fresh. These videos are some little videos that I've created specifically for these classes, and I have them posted out onto YouTube, and they're an average of 8 minutes or so each. And so if you're not fresh with your time value of money metrics, I'm going to recommend that in advance of the night that we discuss week 3, so in advance of our 3rd class, you have gone through and viewed these. And so you're in better shape to benefit from the conversation we're going to have that night. Otherwise, too much of this will be an archaic language for you. They're easy. I go through calculator steps in this. I go through algebra in this. I don't go through much in the way of the Excel equations or functions, but I'll do that in class with you, okay? The other thing to show you here within these weeks is at the end of each night that we're together, both for this session and for the optional review sessions, I will record these and I will post the recordings. So directly underneath the PowerPoint for the week, you'll see that I will put for tonight probably 3 or 4 video segments from this session we're having. I break it into some smaller groups so that you're not looking at something that's 2.5 or 3 hours or even 2 hours all at once. I break it into some smaller groups, maybe half an hour-ish, maybe even as long as an hour for some of them, but so that you can break these down. And I will be posting them directly underneath the PowerPoint for the week. It takes me a day or two to do this, so I have to do some editing, and it takes a long time to render them and get them put up on YouTube. But as soon as I can get them there, I put them there, and then I usually send something out in WhatsApp saying, okay, I've got the videos posted. So if you're stuck, go back to one of the videos and take a look. And if you want to get another angle on this, go all the way to the end of this modules page, and you'll see the very last module is you'll see that the very last module that you see, that one I was just showing you actually isn't published. You won't see that. It says Spring 2020 Zoom recordings, and these are the recordings from the block that just ended. So you can actually see recordings from the entirety of the block that we just ended, all 7 weeks of it right here. So if you're wanting to work ahead, or maybe I haven't posted a video yet, I've got virtually the identical video from the prior block. And the only reason I'm posting your videos as well is because sometimes you will ask questions that maybe they did not, or I might have updated an example for you that I wasn't using for them. Okay? So you've got a tremendous amount of resource here, and I'm going to suggest that you become very familiar with this page. By the way, Matt, here we are in week 3, and this is where we finally see the practice homework and the homework. Okay? Practice homeworks, they do have points. This one shows at 0. I think one of them shows at 1 point. It doesn't matter. They represent a 0% of your grade. You can go through and do the practice homework over and over and over again. It doesn't make any difference. It's going to give you a different set of questions with a different set of values each time, and it's there for you to practice. The actual homework, though, is one that counts, and it counts towards your grade. So you get to see the different questions as such. You get to see the structure of it here. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's Canvas. That's the syllabus. I think you'll be able to walk through all of this. Clearly, I'm happy to help you with any of this. And if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and transition now into some non-organizational information so that we can actually start to look at the class and look at what we want to get out of the class. Fair enough? Okay, so as I go through this, I'm going to be going back and forth from my PowerPoint to a spreadsheet, and I sent this spreadsheet to you, I believe. Let me check to make sure that I did. Yes, so it's the Mira-Dravana financial statement values only. And so this is the one that is not giving you the formulas or the equations. It gives you all the right answers for that first assignment, but we're going to reflect back and forth on that a few times. And I might even bring up on my screen the live version of that and look at some elements of it.
So I have a couple questions, Rick.
Please.
If you're not surprised. So
I pay him to do this, by the way. He gets an extra salary for this.
I wish. So on the quiz, one thing I forgot to ask, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it says choose one of the, on the quiz for week 1, it says choose one of the 4 videos and then take the quiz. So my natural inclination as a student is to think, well, what am I going to miss in one of the videos that isn't covered in another video that's going to be on the quiz? So, I mean, should I be worried about that? Like, or should I be taking notes, or is it just, am I overthinking? Is it just a really basic premise?
So Matt, do you remember what the other question is on the quiz now that we're talking about it?
No, obviously I don't.
Okay. Have any of the rest of you seen the quiz he's talking about? Okay, when you do, you'll be yet less intimidated than you might possibly be. Matt, what's the next question? Do you remember?
I don't.
Okay, because I don't think, it may be hidden from you. So the first question is, which video did you watch? Well, I've only given you 1 video maybe, and maybe I gave you all 4. Doesn't really matter. The next question is, what did you learn?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which one, and those videos are from a guy by the name of Aswat Damodaran. In fact, I think I did give you all 4 videos. Yeah. And he points out the same kinds of things, but in slightly different ways in each one, and he tells you different stories in each one. So this is a perfect place for us to kind of start to wrap this up tonight. All of this corporate executive decision making, especially when we're utilizing valuation model constructs as the lens through which we're examining it and trying to determine its virtue, seems all very numeric. But at the end of the day, largely what we're going to be using are numbers that are estimates and forecasts of future constructs. The reason for that is The value of any asset is the present value of its expected future cash flows. That's very important. The value of any asset is the present value, or the sum rather, of the present values of all of its expected future cash flows. Well, those expected future cash flows, we're forecasting them. We are guessing them. There's science and there's art in this. And when Taylor is forecasting them, he might believe the company's going to have cash flows or revenues growing at 8.5%. And when I'm forecasting them, I might believe it's only going to be 8.3%. When David is running the present value calculations, he may believe that the risk-reward relationship of this company's activity warrants a discount rate of 13%. I might believe it warrants a discount rate of 15%. I don't know which one of us is right and which one is wrong, and I'm not going to know for 10, 15, or more years because it's all future. So there's as much art as there ever is science in this. And the art is displayed through the telling of stories. And what Damodaran's going to do more than anything else is he's going to try to take you from being the quant jock that you might be, or the quant jock that I might be, and turn you into a human being that recognizes the dynamic of stories. So, Andrew, I have this car. In fact, Andrew, it is a bitchin' car. I think you will appreciate it. It actually comes from your mother nation. And it's red, and it's black. It's got an engine behind the seats.
Is it
it's purported to go about, pardon me?
Is it a Lamborghini or Ferrari?
No, it's not. But I have to tell you that from my perspective, it's one of the most highly sought after cars in the world. I own it lock, stock, and barrel. I love it. It is one of my prized possessions. Now, it happens to be a 1/18th scale model of a Bugatti, a Veyron, okay? You couldn't put my left toe in the thing. But I told you a story. Now, I could have just as easily told you a story about a Volkswagen, some of which actually happened to be made in Italy. And by the way, made by some of the same companies, okay? And if I'd have described the Volkswagen with such dynamics and passion, you might have been willing to pay a whole lot more than a Volkswagen would cost you. But I was fortunately describing a Bugatti. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the story, okay? So Lisa is convincing this other senior vice president in the company that they need to add another production line in the warehouse to this company. Let's use that second shift that we don't even have personnel on. Right now we're running 8 to 5, and then we close the place down. Let's add a second shift, put in some more production line equipment, and let's double our output. Fine. They're going to have all kinds of arguments as to why not. There might be some economic arguments as to why not. You're going to be successful by getting the others to agree with you by a combination of your numbers and the dynamics of your story. And Damodaran's going to try to convert you to their gospel, if you will. I'll do the same thing, even in the midst of beating you over the head silly with all these numbers. That was a great question, Matthew. Thank you.
So one quick follow-up. You said you encourage us to form our own groups to work on our homework together. I believe you said that in the context of the Excel assignments. Is that also okay to do for the ICP homework as well?
It is all assignments.
Okay.
It's all assignments. So I expect you to turn in your original work. Sure. Don't become so dependent on somebody else's work that when you're asked a question in a different forum that you have no idea. You do not want to come at me as deer in the headlights when you've been turning in assignments suggesting that you know some things, okay? But all of the assignments you are welcome to collaborate on, with the possible exception of the final output of the course project. So you might notice that I didn't go through that in Canvas. Let me do that now, and that'll be the end of our evening together. Fair enough? So notice that we have the modules page where everything's separated by week. And towards the end of this, I have last blocks videos for you. But you could just as easily go to the assignments page, and you'll see the assignments by grouping. You'll see the Excel assignments. You'll see all the problem sets. You'll see the practice homeworks, none of which count towards your grade, all of which are great practice. And you'll see the homeworks. You'll see participation and then the course project. Let me open it up. The course project is nothing but you giving me a report at the end of the semester, an essay at the end of the block together, where you've decided to take some of the metrics that we've talked about and describe how you would use them in making an executive level decision in your company. And again, that can be your existing employer. It can be a company that maybe you own. It could be a company that you came up with off the top of your little head and just totally fictitious, or some combination of all of that. I don't care. I care that you have to think about these metrics and have a structure in which they're being deployed, okay? I will tell you that you only need to focus on one of the various valuation models as you do this, and you're going to see I'll expose you to several. Use one of them, use all the inputs required for that one, and use it and all those inputs and all the math and everything to talk to me about it, but tell me a story. You're going to give it to me with a good introduction. And the introduction is where you tell me what you're going to tell me. And then you're going to have a number of paragraphs or pages of the body of your report or essay, where you go ahead and give meaningful, rigorous detail to the points that you are referencing in the introduction. And then finally, you give me this conclusion where you tell me what you told me. One of the things that I can't stand is when you've gone through all of this time and effort, all this turmoil and detail, to give me a great report and give me some wimpy little conclusion. Some 1 or 2 line thing. It's the conclusion in which we draw all the points together. It's the conclusion where the model forms and functions. You see their connective tissues. The conclusion should be easily 250 or 500 words. Well, you're going to make out of it what you make out of it. This should be no less than 1,500 words for this report or essay, and it doesn't need to be more than a couple of thousand, to be honest with you. You can do a good job on this in a couple of thousand words, and I don't want it to be more than 4,000 words because I get to read all of these, okay, at the end of my block, which means kind of the beginning of my summer too, all right? So if you're going to give me something very long, 3,000 or more words, it better be really interesting because I'm going to read all of them, okay? Any questions with respect to the project? It's not a group project. I expect different companies, different numbers, different constructs. But if you want to collaborate on how you're putting them together and make sure you each other understand things, I don't have a problem with that at all. Any other questions? Okay, well, you might want to go put some cold compresses on your eyes because I know they're bleeding, even though I can't see it, or cover your ears, whatever it's going to be. I know this is a lot. It will seem like a lot for a couple of weeks, and then the dust starts to settle and the fog starts to clear and you start to see patterns. I hope you end up having the kind of appreciation for these things that I do. I dig this stuff. Not because I'm a lifetime academic, because I'm not. In fact, you can just tell by the way I talk I'm not, right? I came to academia after what, to me at least, was a modestly successful career in finance that was extraordinarily satisfying for my family and myself. The same things that caused that to be the case are the things we're talking about in this class. And I'm trying to deliver that to you so that to the extent that I gain some benefit from it, you can too. And I'll do virtually anything necessary within bounds, of course, to help you and give you the time you need to do well in this class.